Hello.
Hello, Monseigneur Lacroix. When you first heard the news of your appointment, what was your reaction?
My reaction was, I was very surprised. You know, the Pope this time decided not to advise the future cardinals 1, 2, or 3 days ahead of time, which was the way they did things in the past. When we're appointed bishop, we're asked, and then they tell us such and such a date, it will be announced. In our case, none of us, except for just a few, maybe older ones in Rome, none of us were advised. So we all learned it at the same time you did when we listened to his Angelus from Rome. So it was a very big surprise. I was not expecting that at all. I mean, I knew it could happen someday. When you're Archbishop of Quebec, the primatial see, you know that it could happen. But I didn't think it would be yesterday. It was a complete shock, to tell you the truth.
And you've obviously had a chance to deepen your reflection on the Charter of Quebec values.
Yeah.
You still think it's divisive?
Yes, I do. I continue to think that we're not on the right course with this charter. Look at the fruits up to now. We're dividing people. People are every day more afraid of each other. Instead of bringing us together and bringing our cultures together and sharing the richness of who we are, we're starting to build walls and be afraid of each other. And I don't like that. I don't think that that's where humanity should be going.
And you talked about freedom of religion.
Of course.
How important it is.
Yes. The Charter of Rights, the Universal Charter of Rights, and all democratic countries agreed to this. I think it's Article 18, that we have a right to profess our faith in private or in public. And that needs to be upheld everywhere. Thank you.
Bonjour, monsieur.
Bonjour.
So I'd like to know how are you alike and different from Pope Francis in terms of your philosophy and your approach to...
Well, you know, he has a lot more experience than I do. He's a Jesuit. He's a scholar. I'm not a scholar. I would like to be, but I'm not. I have a lot of pastoral experience. I've worked on the field, in the fields with the people. I was a missionary 9 years in South America. So I know a little bit of that reality, and I worked as a missionary here and as a priest, a parish priest, and then preaching retreats, accompanying people. So we have both in common that we like to work with people. Both of us, and I'm very proud to say both of us, are in love with the gospel of Jesus Christ and believe that what the church needs the most is not first of all change its structures, but to change us. So there'll be more witnesses of the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's what the church needs. So on that, we're very, very similar. But he has a lot more experience, and he has a vision, a universal vision that I admire, and he has a lot of depth. So I'm just beginning.
You mentioned some problems in French about some situations like euthanasia, abortion, family, the breakdown of the family. Can you talk a little bit about what you think it will, what are your concerns for Quebecers, and what you think it will take to bring more of them back to the Catholic Church?
Well, it's not only a concern for Quebecers, for any society, wherever it be in the world. If we lose that special living cell, the healthiness of the family, we cannot build a good society. That's the founding cell, the family. What will it take here to continue? Well, we need to work with families. We need to be able to be close to families and give them hope, give them tools. Pope Francis seems to insist a lot, and I think that is a wonderful way of thinking. We need to bring people to a deeper relationship with God. That will open their hearts to other people. It will open their hearts to the love of life, to the respect of life. It will open our eyes to the need for more justice, for more honesty, for more truth, for more love. So that's the entrance. That's how we're going to enter. So that's our main mission, to proclaim that gospel and bring people to have a change of heart so that they will be able to live abundant life and not be taken up by all the things that are unnecessary in life. I see so many people today who are not in jail behind bars, but they're more than prisoners. They're in jail because of so many things that they're dependent on. They're looking for happiness in places where it isn't. In either material goods or in substances like alcohol or drugs. Some people are in a world that isn't real. They live in they have 2,000, 3,000 Facebook friends, but they can't talk to their neighbor. They have no time for their children. That doesn't make sense. That needs to be corrected. The gospel helps us to do that. Thank you.
Hi, I'm trying to get a sense a bit of the new Pope and the way that he's been doing things. Obviously, he's come out on various subjects. How do you see your role in a church that seems to have changed a lot in the last year?
Well, I'm enthused, to tell you the truth. I'm full of hope and joy. The challenges are very big, but the opportunities are very big also. Can't you see there's an opening of hearts right now? I hear so many people that I meet, not in our churches only, but everywhere, in all sorts of situations. People tell me if this Pope continues, he's going to gain my heart. I want to come back and rediscover this faith in this church that I've left for 20, 30, 40 years, or that I've never discovered. He's inviting me. His way of living is an invitation. I want to get to know more. We have a lot of people in our diocese right now who are adults who want to go deep in their faith. That's wonderful. So I think that is what's changing. It's a very enthusiastic time of history to live and to share. I'm very happy to be able to live at this time in history.
But in terms then of your involvement, I mean, seeing the way that he's talked about women in the church, the way that he's talked about homosexuality, obviously named Person of the Year by Time Magazine, but also by gay rights publications. I mean, seeing these different subjects that used to be really taboo in the church now becoming more at the forefront. How do you see that? How do you become part of this church that seems to be adapting to the reality of what today is?
Sure. Well, I think one of the main messages of Pope Francis that's coming across to me is very clear, is that he is a man who is faithful to the doctrine of our church. I mean, do not ever expect the church to be for euthanasia or for abortion. We're never going to come out with a state, never. But he doesn't start by harping on that. He starts by inviting people to open their hearts. He starts by inviting people to feel that they are loved, that they have a place in this church, and that they can grow. They can walk and be on a path of renewal. He wants everybody to feel included. No exclusion. That's very clear. That's why people, like you're saying, people of gay rights, people of many different schools of thought feel, wow, the door's open. Maybe we can come in. And he says, okay, come on in and we'll walk with you. And we'll see how we can continue together the route. So that, I think, is an open window to hope. I like that. And it's an invitation, not just for him, but for all of us, to see how in our parishes, in our own families, in our family circles, how we are with that. I told our priests in Holy Week, the Pope was just elected, and he was starting, and everybody was amazed by this man. I mean, he's a breath of fresh air. I mean, everybody was saying this and that and the other thing about him, and how people were amazed. I said, you know what my question is? Will we be able to follow him? Will we be able to be as prophetic, as evangelical, as truthful as he is? That is the question. And I think that's where we need to work. He's questioned us in many ways. Now we need to act. And that's wonderful, because it's putting us...
Just lastly, on the role of women in the church, and obviously this question about abortion, I mean, from one spectrum, sort of not necessarily endorsing homosexuality, but then, what about, we're talking about women's rights when we're talking about gay rights, the rights of anybody. How does one take precedence over the other? Why would one maybe have a little more light shone upon it than another subject?
Well, if you listen to what Pope Francis said, he's talked about for almost a year on many different subjects. He seems to want to touch every situation, every big subject, and tell people, come continue to reflect with us. Okay? He doesn't say, here's what the doctrine says. You put your life in order and then we'll talk. No. Let's walk together. That's what Jesus did a lot, you know. He walked with people and they opened their hearts to light, to love, to truth. That's what Jesus did, and that's what Pope Francis is doing, and that's what we need to do more and more.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bonjour.
Bonjour. On the issue of secularism, and
Yes.
the whole debate taking place in Quebec right now, what would you see as an acceptable compromise that would bring people together rather than divide them, as you said?
I think love and respect is a very acceptable compromise. And that's the only way. Love and respect of each other. Recognizing in other people. I know that's not your question. But that's, for me, that's the foundation. When you look at other people and have respect for them and genuine love for them and recognize who they are, although they're very different, that is a path to reconciliation, and that helps build a society. Now, when we talk about secularism in Quebec and the Charter of Rights, of course, I understand that the government may want public officials not to have external, very important external symbols of their own faith. A judge, a policeman, well, a few people like that. But for the rest of the people, for most of the rest of the people, I think we need to be able to express our own faith. Not impose it on anybody, but we need to be free to live and express our faith.
So the Bouchard-Taylor Commission report and their proposal, that would be an acceptable compromise for you?
Well, I think they had some interesting things to say. Mr. Bouchard has brought that back in the last few days, that, yeah, there are exceptions. We need to have some accommodations, but we may not need to go as far as what we're planning to do right now as a government. That may be too far.
And
I agree.
The recent event at York University, I'm sure you've read about that. It's similar to what has taken place here in Quebec. Do you think this debate is spilling over into the rest of Canada, and that other governments will as well have to tackle this issue down the road?
I couldn't answer that question, really. I don't know.
But is it a concern of yours? It is a concern of the Archbishops of Canada.
Yes, it is. It is. The situation in Quebec has been very special. It's been very intense. But of course, in many other provinces of Quebec, we see a lot of diversity. I mean, if you go out west, you'll see many, many people from Asia, you know, living with other people. I was in Winnipeg just a few weeks ago for the installation of a new Archbishop. 60,000 people from the Philippines live in that city. It's the city where there are most native people in Métis in all of Canada. These people seem to live fine together. So maybe we're trying to make a storm in a glass of water also. Maybe there aren't that many things that need to be looked at.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.